I know you said earlier you didn't want to focus too much on geopolitics, but we can't ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
Terrorism attacks in Paris, ISIS in Syria and Iraq, upheaval, it seems, because of religious fundamentalism. How must multinationals understand those phenomena? You have staff on the ground, there are lucrative investments to be made in those areas. How do you cope? How do you deal with it?
You know, we're observers. We're not politicians necessarily. I think we're mindful of big themes and big trends, and we want to be good citizens, right? So I always, you know, first and foremost, we want to keep our employees safe, and then, you know, whether it's in South Africa or France or U.S. or Mozambique or Kenya or Egypt or places like that, we want to be known as a good, stable, long-term investor. And by long-term investor, I mean we put assets on the ground. We hire people in the country. We don't fly in and fly out. Really, when as Nick said, I became CEO in 2001. I remember coming to Africa for the first time as CEO. Our entire staff lived in Dubai. Right, so you'd sit there and say, well, I'd say, what's your job? And the person would say, well, I run the power business in sub-Saharan Africa. And I'd say, well, why do you live in Dubai? Really, last time I checked, Dubai didn't have anything to do with sub-Saharan Africa, other than they have a big airport, right? So I think we get a chance to see things on the ground in the way that even politicians don't. You know, in other words, I don't have to read the New York Times to know about China. I know China. I live it. I see it. I hire people. I invest. I've been going there for 30 years. Same way with Africa. Same way as every place else. But I get to the big but here. Look, there's 50 or 60% youth unemployment in places like Egypt, Algeria, certain communities in Europe. Certain communities in the United States. And so what role do we have over time? Over time it is we have to grow these economies faster. We have to create more opportunity for people on the ground. Yeah. And that's not something GE can do universally, but it is something that we do think about. And I mean, you know, we work for investors, but globalization is a right you have to earn today. It's not something that's just going to be given to you. When I grew up in the company, globalization was something that was given to us. That's not the world we live in today. Globalization today is something that has to be demonstrated and earned. And so I'm mindful of it, even though, you know, I have a day job, right, that I have to worry about primarily. But that's the backdrop that I think most multinational leaders have.
Let's come to Africa specifically. And I'm going to quote here the chief executive of Safaricom, which is the largest mobile operator in East Africa. And it's ironic that he would say, don't chase technology, chase solutions.
Yep.
What's your approach to Africa as GE?
You know, I grew up selling stuff in Europe or Japan or the United States, right? So I started my career in sales in our plastics business, and then I ran our healthcare business, a bunch of other jobs. And I was a spec sheet guy, right? My gas turbine is 62% efficient. The other person's is less. My MR scanner has this image quality. The other person's is less. Blah, 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 right? That was the way I was taught. Here it's, I have a solution that can be financed. You know, we can get it into operation fast. Think about, you know, whenever I come to a place that's going through, so, you know, I'm not an expert on South Africa, but I've been here a number of times, and I always, seems like every time I'm here, I pick up the local newspaper and read it in the morning, and Eskom's on the front page, right? So that's true this year, it was true in 2011, it was true in 2008, it was true in 2005, blah, 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 blah. So when I see that, my first inclination is, how could we make their current installed base more efficient? You know, in other words, what's a solution that you could do in 6 months? Not 5 years, not 3 years, but what's a solution that, so I'm trained mentally to think about things that could happen where you would hand somebody, here's a solution that can be implemented in 6 months, not in 6 years. And I think that's Africa. That's Africa, is always do the easy things first, right? I was with Jay, and we were with the president of a not to be named country. And he said, Mr. Immelt, like, I want to be the greenest country in Africa. And I said, okay, right? That's okay, good to me. What we want to do is we want to do like a biofuel-powered solar detector, blah, 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 blah. And he just proceeded to talk. I'm a reasonably experienced business guy. He's just gone through the hardest business project I've ever heard in my entire life, right? Now, I have infinite people and infinite resources. I would have no chance of pulling it off. And you say, oh, Mr. President, how about this? How about we just put in LEDs in every light bulb, right? That saves you a third on energy right away. No, that's stupid. That's what I want to do. Then I just I put my pen down and say, okay, whatever you want to talk about, I'm game. Because we ain't doing anything here, I know that. So I think it's this notion in Africa is always do the easy things first. Always do things that can be done quickly. And be really practical about, I was with, John McCain asked a bunch of CEOs to go to Egypt right after the Arab Spring. And so I'm in the government of Egypt, and they had done, and mind you, the Tahrir Square, they still got people milling around and stuff like that. And they had like a 200-page McKinsey presentation on, the future of Egypt, and how about like a handwritten piece of paper that says, "Help me now," right? How can I get American companies to invest today? So that's why I agree with. I don't know if that was Mo or yeah. So I mean, I just think that's and big multinationals. We are really guilty of trying to be too sophisticated and too spec sheet driven versus just coming in and saying, "Here's the difference." Now, the other thing is financing, guys. I mean, in our business, financing is key, and you can find $1 trillion of secured lending for Africa. You can't find a rand of unsecured equity, right? So everybody says, I want to invest in Africa, blah, blah, blah. I've just raised a $5 billion fund, but their $5 billion fund it can only be here in the debt stack, right? In the debt stack, and you've got to underwrite it, you've got to guarantee it, you've got to do all that stuff. So you have to be able to get in here with a little bit of risk equity if you want to pull these things through.
I'm sure you've heard people say Africa's not a country, but foreign investors tend to treat it like it's one. And of the 54, they tend to focus on about 10.
Yep.
And the hype at the moment is Nigeria.
Yep.
For obvious reasons, scale, population size, that sort of thing. Which are the markets that excite you?
So there's probably today, there's 10 or 12 countries that are either natural resource based, so Mozambique, Angola, Nigeria, places like that. Population based, South Africa clearly is a key market, Kenya, Tanzania. Algeria is critical for us. Egypt, we think, is important. Morocco, for different reasons. Ethiopia is on our screen. So we probably have a dozen countries, probably more or less, that are across both Northern Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. And then we always, what Jay does is we always do like, maybe 3 or 4 flag planting exercises every year. So we'll hire a small team, and we'll say, go figure out, Ghana we like, but we'll say, go figure out, Equatorial Guinea, or go figure out Cote d'Ivoire, or go figure out, different places, and see if we can find a way to do business. We had, lunch today. One of the things that the ambassador of South Africa does for us is he invites, maybe 6 or 7 U.S. ambassadors that has lunch to us today in Johannesburg. So we had Namibia, different countries in the region, so you get a chance to learn about what's going on.
When you say go figure out, some people could interpret that, rightly or wrongly, as saying go and massage egos. Do you do that? Do you spend a lot of time managing political relations? They say you can't do business in Africa.
Oh, sure. If that's, well, let's put it this way. Look, I'm I'm respectful of understanding what's important for a country and who the decision makers are in a country. But I'd rather have a good, I think if you have a good relationship and good solutions, you don't have to worry about, the bad stuff, right? And again, the best part about being a part of GE, whether you're me or you're any member of our team, is there's no one order that's going to sink the company. So our people are trained to walk away. Our people are trained to, well, let's put it this way, they're trained to walk away or get fired. So and that's the advantage of being a big company, because you just don't need to do things the wrong way. But there's not one time in my life when I haven't sat in front of any political leader, whether it's the U.S. or Africa or any place else, without asking the question, what can GE do for you?
Yeah.
Right? I think there's, I think that's not, I don't think that's being political. I think it's being not rude and a good salesman, which I hope I am. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. And so I do that all the time.